Since when do you know His Majesty King Michael, our king?
Really for about 7 years or 8 years, as well as I do now. My grandfather knew his grandparents, Queen Mary in particular, and I have letters at home exchanging news between the two of them. So there is a family link, but that goes back 2 generations.
Queen Mary was very loved, you know, by the Romanian people. Yeah. The most loved queen in Romania. Are you familiar with his destiny, with His Majesty destiny, with his exile, his being banished for so many years, far from his beloved country?
Yes, and what is I am familiar with that. What is remarkable is the incredible dignity with which he bore his exile. He loves this country, and he found it very difficult, after all the time and effort he'd given to this country, to be banished from it. But as I said, he behaved with dignity, he never complained, and it was an example to us all. Don't underestimate that he suffered through not being able to be here. He very much wanted to be here.
I'm sure he did. Do you think all that pain that His Majesty felt in the long years when he couldn't see his own country, all that pain was gone the very moment he could finally return to Romania?
I think he always comes to life when he's in Romania. I saw him on television yesterday on the balcony with the crowds below, and you could see in his face his quiet, open enjoyment of being here amongst his people. Remember, a 22-year-old, just 22, to overthrow a fascist like that, it takes enormous courage. And that is why, as I said, he's enormously revered all around the world. I don't know if Romania realizes what a sort of world figure he is in terms of respect.
Nevertheless, I don't know if you heard about what the former president said at a certain point about His Majesty, President Băsescu. In an interview, he said at a certain point that His Majesty was in fact a traitor, that he left the country to the Russians.
I just pointed out.
Did you hear about the...
Well, we cannot change the facts, some facts in history. And the answer is that the king could have left. He came back. And as we know, he was effectively forced at gunpoint. Not his gunpoint, but that a very large number of students would be shot. That's what the world believes, and everyone knows is the truth. And was forced to leave with every indignity possible, even, I think, the bread they took to eat in the train being stabbed with knives to see there wasn't jewelry or something like that in it. Nobody could have left his country more unwillingly than the king. And if I may say so, to say anything different is just nonsense.
We've been revolted also by these words, the press also, the Romanian press, and a lot of people. And we were also very impressed that His Majesty just didn't answer to this. He completely ignored this very offending words of a president.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who says anything, and I don't know who it was that said these things. But the king is a very dignified person, and when the truth is obvious, one doesn't need to give it more publicity by denying it. The whole world knows the truth. Yeah.
What do you think are the reasons for which the British monarchy is still loved and supported by its people in a less and less conservative world?
We believe that, and I'm not telling other countries what to do, I speak about the United Kingdom. We believe that having a monarchy is the best safeguard of democracy. And you may think it sounds illogical, but the reason is this. Our Queen has virtually no political power, really none at all, except in real emergencies. So it gives a wonderful balance. It keeps party politicians slightly in control. It means that politicians are reluctant to perhaps to take undemocratic steps, knowing that there is above them all a monarch who is not political, has never had political ambitions, who does it out of duty and not out of choice, but who has enormous common sense. And I think that sense of duty and common sense and honesty are certainly qualities I would ascribe to your king.
You told me you've been visiting Romania quite often. How do you find Romanian people?
Absolutely.
Very different from your people?
No, not at all. Very similar, possibly a little more hard-working.
Yeah?
I've always thought the only criticism I have of Romanian people is that you are too modest about your achievements. I first came here in 1983, in the worst years, as a tourist. The country, the buildings, the people were grey. I started coming again about 7 years ago. The improvements were incredible. But the pace of the improvements in the last few years has been tremendous. Bucharest has been utterly transformed, Lipska and that sort of area. It's been enormously completely changed. And so full marks to this country, which is really making enormous advances. You had a terrible, wasted 50, 60 years, but you are making up for time now quite wonderfully.
We don't realize because we are living here every day and we can't see, as you see, the improvement.
It is quite amazing.
But did you have the occasion to meet ordinary people also, ordinary Romanians, not only staying here in the palace with the royal family?
Yes, because I travel around as a tourist too.
Yeah.
And of course, so you meet whether it's people in restaurants or people driving you around or people in shops, of course you do. And the answer is Romanians are just like everybody else.
Did they
very
seem
similar, very friendly, very dignified actually. It's a very dignified people, the Romanians.
What are your plans for the future in terms of Romania?
Well, I hope to be able to continue working with the royal family to get business people in the City of London, investors, to put Romania even more on the map. And of course, I hope to come to visit friends and to be a tourist many more times to Romania.
So you enjoy staying here?
Love coming to Romania, yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.